back to my channel. Change of scenery now because I have to film in the downstairs hallway because upstairs I was always filming on my landing, and we have a guest now there. He is staying with us for 6 months, and it is the rabbit of my son. My son has an internship and he has to go living there, so the rabbit couldn't come with him, so we are taking care of the rabbit. So I had to go downstairs for filming, and I have to really search how to film from here because I'm so used to my landing for filming. So I hope you don't mind. And also, as just happened, you will hear the dogs maybe barking because they are here on the other side of the door. So if it gets too worse, I will put them outside. But in this week's video, we're going to make a summer dress because we are still in summer. We're going to the end, but I really wanted to make some summer garments still. So we're going to make a summer dress that is rather open with spaghetti straps, as you saw. And I really wanted to add a shrug. And I was struggling to find a word. I had it in my mind, but I couldn't come up with it. I couldn't find it on Google Translate what it was called. So finally I asked one of my subscribers that I know has a lot of knowledge about fashion, and she came with the word shrug, and that was exactly what I was looking for. So the shrug, and it's an like a blouse, but it's just sleeves and a back pattern. It's no front. This one you tie in the front, but normally it is only just sleeves that are connected in the back. And I think that garment is very versatile, very nice to have, because when you get chilly, your arms getting a little bit chilly in the evening, you can just put your shrug over and you are very nice to go on with your evening. And as I'm always very quick chilly, shrugs are really my thing, and I don't care if they are in fashion or not. I will still wear them because they are so handy and so nice to have. So if you like that, please subscribe to my channel if you like my videos. And I show you now what my inspiration was for this dress with the matching shrug. So I had quite some inspiration pictures to choose from, and I really couldn't decide, but I was sure I wanted to make a summer dress with that shrug. And I saw one on CNA that has a really nice one, a very open dress, mid length, that I really like, especially in summer because it's very nice and airy, but still very classy. And the shrug from CNA I don't really like because I think it is too long. I think it should end in the waist to give it that definition there, otherwise it hangs over your hips. And if you like that, certainly make your shrug longer, but for my body type that is not the best length, so I'll make the one shorter. But I like it that you can tie that in the waist and make it as tight or as wide as you want. But I was not sure what to do because I always navigate to a v-neck or a wrap dress style or something like that, and I like to give you some more options in the patterns, or in to show you how to make a pattern for a dress than every time the same kind of dress. And I really like the one with the whooshing, like the El Pastel one and the Topshop one. But I also wanted to have it airy, so the sleeves of the El Pastel one I don't particularly like, but I like the top part, and especially as the Topshop one has with that spaghetti straps that are going onto the top of the dress, and you can tie that in the mid front. And that's a really nice concept because it's very easy to make, and you can just tie it as high or as low as you want, and as much whooshed in or as little as you like. So that's what we're gonna do. And I also want to gather it under the bust. The Topshop one doesn't have that, but I like that because then you have the width in your upper part of your dress, and then it's not that tight, because when it's really hot it's not nice when you have a fabric too tight to your body. And because I'm now using a viscose or a cotton, then it's nice to have that just loose around your body, that you have some air there. So we're gonna gather it underneath the bust, and as I said, I make mine mid-length. You can also make it short like the El Pastel one, that's okay too. And you can choose, I will show you when we make the pattern, if you want it tight around the waist, so going from the bust down to the waist tight and then going out, or just going out straight under the bust so that you get a more empire style dress. So that was the inspiration and the reason why I choose for this one. And the shrug will be just a simple one, sleeves and a back, and then a very, very small front part with ties to tie in the waist. This is the drawing for the dress. We make this top part that is still under the bust, that has gatherings here because we have the shoulder straps going down through a casing here, and it is tight in the front. Here it is an opening, and these shoulder straps are connected here to the mid-back seam, so going into a casing on the back, going over the shoulders, and then in the casing in the front and tight in the front. Then we have gatherings here under the bust, and I also decided to do gatherings in the back, and also so the gatherings here on the top. You can also make your back part just plain, then don't stretch that out or take it out when you make the pattern. Just take your normal back pattern for that, then you don't have gatherings here. But I like this dress to be nicely loose and airy, so I make gatherings in the front and in the back. And then the skirt is just water plain. You can decide if you want it to be here around the waist, water fitted, and then going out in the skirt, or you can decide to go out already here just under the bust, going out for the skirt, and it is more loose here. I like it to be a little bit fitted, not too tight, but just a little bit on, so that it's not too wide on me. Because that's too much for my body type. But if you like that, you can certainly make it just an empire style dress, and then you have a really nice wide and airy skirt. I decided to make the zipper in the mid back. That is not ideal for a dress like this, but I don't like zippers in the side seam, because with your curves I always think it's uncomfortable to have here that stiff zipper. So I make mine in the mid back seam, but if you want, you can just make it in your side seam like you should do. But as I said, I don't think it's comfortable, so I'll just put it here. Of course your seam here is going on. I didn't draw that, but it's just a mid back seam. So it's a rather plain and simple design. The only thing we have to do is we have to adjust our basic pattern, because we need some more width here on top, but for the rest it's pretty simple. And then for the shrug, also that is pretty simple. You just have a back pattern. I didn't even bother to draw that, and you have sleeves cut on your pattern, and your front isn't even really a pattern, it's just a sleeve that's a little bit extended over your shoulder, and then going out in some ties so that you can tie it at the waist. So this is waist length. So that's your dress, and it's a really nice summery design, I think. And because my fabric is a rather thin viscose, I will make the top part of double fabric. So I'm gonna line this part, and that also makes it easier to finish it and to make the casing. But if you have a cotton or a more thicker fabric, then you don't have to line it, which you can if you want to. And I'm also gonna line a part of my skirt with some lining fabric, because otherwise it will be see-through. The top part I will just do the lining from the same fabric as the outer part. So for the pattern, what you need is your basic pattern for the top, and make a copy out of that. I use my old one because I already have a copy that is new. This is already pretty worn out, so I can use this to cut it up. And what you first do is you measure where your bra strap sits on your shoulder, and for me that is 12 centimeters from the middle, but measure at your body where it sits on you, because I'm a very small person, so it certainly is different on my body than on your body. But mark that here. I mark that with a double line if I want to make a tank top, but just mark where exactly the bra strap sits. And then you measure how low you want your dress to be. I measured mine 70 centimeters for my shoulder seam. I marked that there, and you make that a temporary line. You can just do it with a pencil like I did now. You can just do it with a mark, whatever you like. So just a straight line for now. Then measure how low you want your dress to sit beneath your bust, and make sure that it's not really where your bra strap sits, because then your dress will be too tight over your bust. That's not comfortable. So measure rather loosely over the biggest part of your breast, so over your apex, how low you want your the top of your dress to end and the skirt of your dress to start. And for me that was 34 centimeters from my shoulders down, and also give that a line. Then what you do is you mark on the line where you measured your bra strap going down. That will be the point where you want the curve of your dress to be, and then give it a nice curve going to that line that you just made. And it doesn't have to be exact, just give it a curve, and then also give it a curve to your armhole, the bottom of your armhole, going up to that same point. And you see I make that lower than where I end my dress, because I don't want this to be dropped down too much. You can make it lower if you like. You can also make it lower later on when you have tried it on and you think, well, it's really too high for me, that's not nice. Then you can just make the curve lower, but you can never add. So don't make it too low already now, because then you will have a problem maybe later on. So you have done here the curve for the top of your dress, and then that line of where you want the dress, the top of the dress to end, is this line, and then you cut that out. Then you have this was the top of your pattern. You can throw that away. This is the top part of your dress, so the new top part. This will be your bottom part, and you can also alter it a little bit already, because you see this is a little bit of a curve, but because you had to connect the armhole to your waistline. But because you're gonna just connect your skirt part to your top part, this is underneath your bust, so this will be I think it's good to measure it out, but for me it is the same width almost as my waistline, my waist width. So I'm just gonna draw this line going up from my waist, going up to the top of the skirt part, when you want it fitted. If you don't want it to be fitted underneath your bust here will be ruffles later on. If you don't want this part to be fitted around your stomach, then just leave it on, or maybe even make it a little bit wider, because we're gonna curve the skirt out. So then you can just go from this connecting line going out like this. Then you have a rather wide dress, more like an empire style dress. But I gonna make it rather fitted, not too much, so I give it a little bit more seam allowance here, just to be sure that it's not too tight on my body, because that's not nice when it's warm weather. But we're gonna keep this piece for later on. First we're gonna continue with this part. So now you have your top part. If you want your back to be just straight on without gatherings, use this also for your back part. Don't cut it, what we're going to do now. Just make a copy of this part. But for the front, we're certainly gonna make some adjustments. So what you do is you measure out some lines here on the top part. I'm only gonna do it till where we curved it up, because I don't want any gatherings underneath my arms, because I think that's very annoying. It gives a lot of bulk underneath your arms, and I don't like that. But if you want to, you can also make your lines here underneath your arms, in the armhole, and then you get gatherings here too. So you make some lines here on the pattern, and then you're gonna cut them open. So just gonna cut them apart. And again, it doesn't have to be exact. I just made 1, 2, 3 cuts, but you can make 4. It doesn't even have to be spaced out exactly. It's just about. And then you take a new piece of paper, you put your pattern pieces on top of that, and then you flare them out a bit. And a bit depending on what kind of fabric you have, I would alter this width that you had originally, with 1.5 when you have a more stiff fabric to max 2 times the width you have now, because otherwise you get too much fabric here. So just measure out. I had 12, so I can add just about 12 because my fabric is rather thin. Make sure that your bottom line stays straight. So this is again the straight line that you started with. And then you're gonna tape that onto your new fabric. So when you tape that down, mark again your outside line, your armhole piece, and then your new top line. So just connect the parts of your taped down pieces, and of course make this a nice line, because when you connect it then you get a crooked line, so don't do that. This will be your mid front, and then you can cut it out, and then you have your new pattern piece for your dress. Like this. And again, you can use this for your back part too, or you can use it for, you can use the former part for your back part. Then for the skirt part, you can take the rest of your pattern piece of your top. As I said, I'm gonna make it rather fitted on the top to the top part of the dress. So I marked here the line going from the waist straight up. I marked it on my new piece of paper. And then I took a ruler, I measured out how long I want my dress to be, and the skirt part for me will be 86 centimeters, so that's rather a lot. And I measured out how wide I can make my skirt on the bottom if I have the width of my fabric. So that means that the bottom of my skirt can be 37 centimeters for this pattern. So I measured that out just outside of the frame, and I take my ruler and I draw a line from the waist going all the way down to that width that I just marked on my paper, and then you have a nicely straight outgoing skirt. And what we did before in another sewing class is make sure that you give your skirt hem a little bit of a curve, because this is a straight line, this is a curved line, so the line here will be longer than the line in the middle. So measure the length of that line and make sure that it's the same as the length of that line, and then do that through all your hem width so that you get a little bit of a curve. So that will be your pattern for your skirt part. And again, if you want an empire style dress, so more width around the stomach area, don't cut this piece off, just go from the width of your basic pattern going all the way down for your skirt, and you get quite some width above your waistline, so it will be nice and loose here around the stomach area, and that's very nice too. Pattern for the shrug, you again need your basic pattern for the top, so the copy that you made, mine is mirrored but that doesn't matter, it's all the same. And you put that on another piece of paper, and what you do is you trace your neck hole for the back part, and then you extend your shoulder seam to the width that you want your sleeve to be, to end. So I made mine from the neck hole line 50 centimeters, so that's about halfway my underarm. And then measure with your measuring tape around your underarm how wide you want your sleeve to be, and just put your measuring tape just around your arm and see how tight or how loose you want it. I make mine 14, so that's all around 28. That's just about rather loose but not too loose, because then it will get too boxy on me. So you mark that. Then, well, I laid it here to the edge of my paper, so I don't have to mark the mid-back line. Mark your waistline. And then you can, of course you don't need this dart, so take your dart in, or just take the 2 centimeters off here on the side, and then trace your side seam. And you can take this off, and then what you do is you make a curved line from your side seam to the end of your sleeve. I hope you can see, because the pattern paper is almost the same color as my background. But you make a curved line, and what you can do, you can make it from the waistline going up, then you get more of a bat wing. I rather have a more fitted sleeve because otherwise it will be too boxy on me. So I went almost all the way up to where my armhole would start, and here made a curve to the end of my sleeve. But you can make it lower if you like it more breezy, more airy. You can go all the way from the waistline, whatever you like. And what I also do is I mark where I want my facing to be, or how to cut it. You can finish the neck hole and the mid front later on with a bias tape if you like that. I'm more a fan of facing, so I mark my facing. So this is 2 centimeters from the outside line. I make a marking, and then I know how to cut out this piece of fabric for the facing for my back neck hole. And then for the front part, it is almost the same. So you can use this pattern so that you have your sleeve the same as your back pattern. You can also use just your basic pattern for that, but I use this one. I traced again the sleeve seam and the side of the sleeve. I mark here where my shoulder ends, and from that mark where my shoulder ends, I just went straight on in a straight line going down to the waistline. So I don't have, it looked like this, but I'll put it so, like this. It looks like this. So I don't have this whole part for the mid front. I just cut it off. I leave this open because I just want the shrug to sit on my shoulder, have a sleeve and no front part, just going down to the waistline. And then I added here a point as a tie to tie my shrug when I want to close it down. So just go straight down here to the waistline, just a bit above it, around 5 centimeters, make a curve, and then going in a diagonal. I think this is around 12 centimeters or something. Oh no, even more. I made mine around 17 centimeters from the, well, not the mid front, but where this line is, going 17 centimeters out. If you have a more thicker or more sturdy fabric, you can do more, because otherwise maybe it's difficult to tie a knot with this, but mine is like that. And then going back up in a little curve to the waistline, and then going to the side seam, of course. So it's a very simple pattern. Oh, and also for the front part, I marked my facing here around the front seam of 2 centimeters, going into that tie knot. Can you see that? Yes. And then going back to the waistline, and here we're gonna just make a hem. So just a simple piece to cut out as a facing to finish this whole part and this whole knot tie. So I cut my pieces, and what you should have is 4 parts for the front part if you want to line it. If you don't line it, then 2 parts, because we don't cut this on the fold. We just cut separate pieces because we're gonna make a slit here in the mid front, and then it's easier to finish that one. So 2 if you don't line it, 4 if you line it for the front, and the same for the back. 4 pieces including the lining. If you don't line it, just 2 pieces. So you should have 8 similar pieces for the top part of the dress. Third, you need for the front part 1 piece that is on the fold. So you cut that part of the skirt on the fold for the front, and because I'm gonna line the skirt with lining fabric, I also cut a piece on the fold, but I only cut the piece on the length that I want my lining to be, so not the full length. And don't make the mistake that I did. I measured how long I wanted my underskirt to be, or my lining to be, from the waist down, but because this dress is from the underbust down, I cut it too short. And happily I buy my lining on bulk, so I have way enough, but I had to cut it again. And if you have bought your lining just for this dress and you cut it wrong, then you will have a problem. So please measure it right from your bust down, how long you want your lining to be. And also on the fold. And then for the back skirt, that is not on the fold, 2 pieces, because we have a zippy here in the middle, and also a lining not on the fold on the same length as that you did for the front part. Then for the shrug I cut my back piece on the fold, so it's just one continuous part with sleeves. So it's a rather big piece of fabric. And then the front parts, of course they are separate, two pieces with that tie piece on the bottom and the sleeves connecting. So those are the two front pieces. And I didn't cut my facings yet because I'm going to do that later on, but these are the main pieces that you need for now. So we're going to start sewing, and we're going to start with finishing the slit we have here in the mid front. And I marked how low I want my slit to be. I made it 8 centimeters. You can do a little bit more if you want. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a little walled hem here to the slit seams, and if you have a lining, also here for the lining part. So just take a very small, roll it in and then roll it in again and pin that down. And you do that till your marking point, till that pin that you put in, and just a little bit below, because then it is easier to do the mid front seam later on. So just like this, sew that down just a bit below that point for all 4 parts, or 2 parts if you don't have a lining. Now what you do is you put both pieces together, right sides together, and you're going to sew the rest of your mid front seam. So here is the slit you just finished on both sides, and you're going to close that up, and you're going to sew that until the marking that you just made. And because you made your walled hem a little bit lower, you can really close the ends of that walled hem nicely up in your stitching here. Now we have 2 nice crisp V's or slits here in the mid front. Now we're gonna sew the side seams, so take your back patterns and put them on top of each other and make sure that it is lined up right with the side seams. Do that for both parts, and then you're gonna sew the side seams on either side. Sure you have nicely ironed open all your seams, the side seam, the mid front seam, and then you put both pieces right sides together. And it is way too wide for this frame, but I'll show you what is important. So put them right sides together, and then what you do is you're gonna pin the whole top part from the mid front to the mid back, and the other side too, of course. But you leave some parts open. So you leave open, this is my frame, yes. This is the mid front, so this is the slit. Then you have this whole top part from the front. Then here you leave an opening between my fingers of around 2 centimeters, 1.5, 2 centimeters. You leave that open. Then you continue sewing together the armhole part. And then when you get to the back pattern, you again leave an opening here of 2 centimeters, so just about. And then you sew down the top back of your dress. So you leave openings here, say front and back of your armhole. That's maybe the clearest way to say it, because here is your strap going in, and here is it going in. And that is also for both sides. So this is the left part, this is the right part. So do the same on the other side of your mid front slit. And then sew that together. you've sewn the outer part and the lining together, you iron that seam nicely open, and then you flip it one sides together so that you have it like it should be, the outer fabric and the lining underneath. And then you have something like this, and then you press that whole outer seam very nicely flat, because now what we're going to do is we're going to make the casing here for the straps, the spaghetti straps that we're going to take in here on the front and also here in the back. So you pin just around a centimeter, 1.5 centimeter from the top edge down, and you make a casing here. So you make a sewing line here from the opening in the mid front, going all the way to the opening in the armhole, and also for the back part from the armhole to the mid back. And what you now also can do is you can top stitch this V now here together, so the outer fabric sewing on to the lining, and the more experienced sewers maybe have already done that one side, right sides together, and just sew that in and then take it out. But for beginners it's rather difficult then to get a really nice crisp V here, and I think that's very important that this looks very nice. But what you can do now is just top stitch over the stitching that you had here from your rolled hem, and then you don't see it, and you have a really nice crisp V here for your front slit. So make your casings here on the front 2 times and on the back 2 times. Now the top part is nicely finished. We make the casing here all around. If you like, you can also top stitch or understitch here the armhole, but I think I will just leave it like this. So we'll put this aside for now, and then we're going to work on our skirt part. And as I said, I'm going to line it because my fabric is very thin and sheer, and it's very see-through if I don't do it. So what I did is I just put my lining underneath, and I'm just going to treat it as one. So I don't have to line anything separately or whatever. Just put your lining underneath, pin them together on the sides that you're sure that nothing is shifting. And then you take your back patterns and you put that on top of your front. And then we're going to sew our side seams, and that is of course for the left and the right side. Sew that down all the way down, and you can also then sew the mid back seam, but first then measure how long your zipper is that you want to put in. If you want to put in an invisible zipper, then don't already make your mid-back seam, because you do that afterwards. If you put in a normal zipper, you can also do your mid-back seam. What I did is I made a basting stitch on the bottom of my top part, and the basting stitch is just a normal top stitch but with a very large length between the stitching, and that means that when you make sure you don't backstitch at the beginning and the end, because what you can do is just take one thread, the top or the bottom, doesn't matter, and when you pull on it you can gather in your fabric all the way that you want. And sometimes one thread doesn't work that well, here both they don't, so I think I will have to adjust that later on. But I already tried the part on the other side. And then you gather this in just by pulling on the threads to the width of your skirt. And so mark the middle of your skirt here and line it up with the middle of your top. And then line up your side seams and the back. And then what you do is you put them right sides together on top of each other. And then you're going to pin at the mid front and at the side seam and at the mid back. Like this, and then you're gonna distribute the fabric of the top so that it matches your skirt part. And you can just do that. I don't know if I've gathered it enough. I just pulled on the threads a bit, but I think it's pretty nice like this. Just distribute. You see here was a piece that is not gathered at all, so I have to adjust it a bit so that it's nicely everywhere the same. And then you pin that whole part down from the one side to the other side, and then you sew that down with a normal stitch and finish it with the zigzag stitch, or do it with your serger if you like that. And before you sew that down, what you can do is try it on if you're not sure if your skirt width is okay. If you have cut it extra just in case or something like that, then when you've pinned it on, try it on and see if you have to adjust anything, because now you can. If you have to take this whole part off, it's annoying. So try it on before you sew it down. The top part connected to our skirt part with the nice gatherings here, and now we're going to work on the straps, because then we're going to connect them here on the back, on the top of the zipper. So when we want to sew in the zipper, we need to have the straps here into the casing at the back. So we're going to make that first. And what I did, I measured out how long my straps should be. So I measured around my back, then over my shoulder, and then to the front, and of course with enough length to also make a tie. So I made mine 90 centimeters long each, so that must be enough, and I cut them on the bias, and I wanted it to make a bias tape of it with this really nice tool. But my fabric is so thin, it is almost like a chiffon, this viscose. So the bias tape maker didn't do it, it didn't fold it well, it didn't keep its shape well. So I'm just gonna make normal spaghetti straps by folding them together, stitching along the edge here, and then turning them with the, what's this called, the loop turner. That's a nice tool to do that too. And I cut them on the bias because I wanted to make bias tape, but also because then you get a little bit of a stretchy strap, and that's more comfortable to wear. And because I wanted to use this, I cut mine 3 centimeters, but now they will get really thin if I make normal straps. So maybe you should make them more around 4 or 5 centimeters, or when you really like very thin spaghetti straps, you could certainly do 3 centimeters. So what I'm gonna do is make my straps out of this, turn them with my loop turner, and then I'm gonna put them into the casing of the dress, and I'll show you how to do that, and then we can sew in our zipper. Feed my straps through the back casing. You can do all the way around, also through the front, but I'll do that later on. But I want this because I want to put my zipper in now. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to finish here the edges of the mid back seam, and then I'm going to put in an invisible zipper. And again, as I said in my last week's video, I went out of white zippers, and I'm using now a tan one, but you won't see it because it is invisible later on. The only thing that you can see is here the, what's that called? Here the top part of that's where you pull it. So it's not a problem that the color is not exactly the white color. But I'm going to do that, then I'm going to put my zipper in. And if you're not familiar how to put in an invisible zipper, I have a special tutorial about that. I will link it up here in the upper right corner and down in the description box. You can also do just a normal zipper. I also have a sewing class about that. I will link that down below too. And there you can put your zipper in and close up your mid back seam. And then we're almost finished, because then we only have to fit in the rest of our straps and do the hem. So almost done for the dress, and then we go on with the shrug. So our zipper is nicely in now, and the only thing we have to do now is hem the bottom of the dress. Because I have a very thin sheer fabric, I make a very small walled hem, as small as I can, and just top stitch it. If you have a more thicker fabric like a cotton or a real viscose, not as chiffony as mine, then you can just make a normal hem or even a wide hem, because I think that's also always very nice when you make it 3 centimeters in and 3 centimeters again. But then you really have to have a more sturdy fabric than I have. So I'm just going to make a rolled hem. And then we're going to continue with the shrug. And what you do is you place your front pieces on top of your back pattern. And then you can sew the shoulder seams here. And you can sew the side seams. And you do that, of course, for both sides. So we have here now our shrug sewn together with the opening here in the mid front. And now what we're going to do is we're going to make our lining pieces, or our facing. And what you do is you're going to sew the shoulder seam. So this is the facing for the back. These are the two for the front. Make sure you lay them down well with the ties parts in the middle. And then you're going to sew your shoulder seams. And then you lay that on top of your shrug itself. Right sides together, of course. And you can sew your whole, I'll just line it up first, your whole neck hole and mid front seam going to the bottom of the shrug, and you stop where the facing ends. And make sure first you finish here the outside line of your whole facing, from the front to the back part to the other front facing. Then sew them together here, flip them one sides together, and see if you you certainly need to press it down, but see if you need to sorry, understitch it, or maybe you like the top stitches, you can do that too, whatever you like. And then the only thing you have to do is hem the rest of your shrug. And it is here where your facing is ending. Here you'll start the small walled hem going all the way through the back to the other side of the other facing. And then of course hem the sleeves at the length that you like. And then your shrug is also finished. So I wanted to show you how it looks when I've pinned my facing all around. I finished the edges and now I pin it all around, and here along the ties till the end where the facing stops. So we're gonna sew that on all the way around. Turned out really nice. I like how it's light and airy, and we have still a heat wave here, and I don't have this much of these open dresses because usually we cannot wear it in my country. But for now it's very nice. The viscose is very thin and very light to wear, so it doesn't cling when it's hot, and well, I really like the shape, how it looks, and I'm very happy with the shrug. I really like these kind of garments that are maybe not in fashion anymore, but I still like them a lot, and I like to wear them because it's nice to have something to put over when it's getting chilly in the evening, or I'm always very quick chilly when everyone is still hot, and then you can just put it over. And also when you have to be a little bit more covered up when you're visiting some places or something, then you can just wear this, and it's still the same breathy material, so you don't get too hot, but you are covered up a bit, and it looks a bit more polished. But I really like how this dress turned out. I like the straps. I like that you can adjust how high or how low you want it to be. You can make it more to the side, you can make it more to the middle, but it's nice to have this loose, and this I made it rather fitted, not really tight, but I still have room enough here. But you can make it also going wide down, then you have even more of a width down in your skirt. But I like how this looks on me, and I'm really happy with my shrug. So I think you will see more of these. I have quite a lot of them. I also have in the knit version, and it's also very nice because it's just so simple to do, but it really looks nice, and I like it with the look over this dress. I like the dress like this, but maybe I even like it more when I put my shrug on top of it and just have just a little bit more of an outfit, and that's the nice thing. It's matching and it looks really nice, I think. So I hope you liked this tutorial. If you have any questions, as always, leave them down below in the description box. If you haven't done already, please subscribe if you like my videos. And if you have anything to ask or to say, just leave me a comment and I will get back to you almost the same day. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!